Breaking news! Fans are starting to connect the dots. The Ravens haven't made the moves we expected, and now a storm may be brewing. Strange decisions, exposed key positions, and the front office's silence are making people nervous. Why are seasoned veterans still available on the market while Baltimore remains inert? Is there a bigger plan, or are we witnessing a repeat of the same mistake that has cost this team dearly before? But before we dive into what may be one of the most overlooked stories of the entire Ravens season, be sure to like this post if you're a true Ravens fan. It's always amazing to see fans of all ages supporting this team. And if you want, comment, "Go Ravens," below. Let's see how many of you still believe this is our year. Let's get to the heart of what's happening in Baltimore, and it starts with a brutal reality. This roster still has serious holes that haven't been patched. As it stands, the Ravens have 4 glaring weaknesses: interior defensive line, offensive line, cornerback depth, and edge rusher. These aren't just minor concerns. They're potential playoff killers. And while the team has made a couple of respectable moves, most notably Draymond Jones, the rest has been underwhelming at best. Let's start with that defensive line. Travis Jones is playing out of his mind and deserves every bit of praise. Honestly, outside of Kyle Hamilton, there might not be a more impactful defender on this roster right now. But once you look past him, it's a rough sight. Brent Urban, John Jenkins, these guys are serviceable, but not the kind of players who anchor a championship-caliber defense. And then there's the injury bug. Nnamdi Marab is already out for the year, and Broderick Washington's Achilles injury has him sidelined indefinitely. The team is dangerously thin here. You don't need a superstar, you just need bodies that can hold the line. That's why a guy like Linval Joseph makes so much sense. He's experienced, physical, and understands how to plug gaps. No one's asking him to play 60 snaps a game. But right now, the Ravens don't have the depth to make it through December, let alone the postseason. Flip the script to the offensive line, and the issues might be even worse. Daniel Falale and Andrew Voorhees have proven time and again that they're not the answer. It's hard to be polite here. They simply aren't good enough. They never have been. This isn't about potential anymore. It's about results. And it's not like the Ravens haven't had opportunities. Many fans were hoping for a splash at the trade deadline. Kevin Zeitler or Joel Bitonio were names that kept coming up. Instead, nothing happened. But the front office still has a chance to redeem itself, and it could start with someone like Shaq Mason. Was he elite last season with the Texans? No, but he was one of the few bright spots on a line that was otherwise a disaster. Drop him between Ronnie Stanley and Tyler Linderbaum, and there's reason to believe he'd elevate his play. At this point, the bar is low. You just need someone who won't collapse the pocket every other play. On the secondary front, the name that keeps surfacing is Asante Samuel Jr. Yes, he had a serious health scare with that spinal fusion surgery. But now that he's been medically cleared to return, it's worth exploring, especially when the team's cornerback depth is still shaky. Nate Wiggins has shown flashes, and fans still hold out hope for Marlon Humphrey's consistency, but there's just not enough reliability. Even Chidobe Awuzie, while solid, doesn't push this group over the edge. Remember, this was the worst secondary in football over the first month and a half of the season. That's not ancient history. That's this season. And while there's been clear improvement, pretending like it's completely fixed would be naive. Samuel brings youth, speed, and a chip on his shoulder. He's hungry to prove he still belongs, and that kind of hunger is exactly what this secondary needs. For a more seasoned presence, Stephon Gilmore should be in the conversation too. Is he past his prime? Yes. But intelligence and experience are commodities that never lose value, especially in December and January. He won't win foot races anymore, but his ability to read offenses and position himself in the right place at the right time could prove invaluable in a tight playoff game. You can't have too much depth at corner in today's league. And finally, let's talk edge. Draymond Jones was a welcome addition, and Kyle Van Noy continues to be a reliable veteran presence. But let's not pretend this is a complete unit. David Ohabo, for all the excitement he brought as a draft prospect, hasn't lived up to expectations. He's still developing, and maybe one day he'll get there, but this isn't the time to wait on potential. That's where DeMarcus Walker becomes intriguing. Over the last 2 seasons, he's combined for 14 sacks. He's not a star, but he's consistent, and right now the Ravens need production, not projections. He could be a rotational guy that gives this pass rush a much-needed jolt. Because the reality is this, patience can be a virtue, but it can also be a trap. If the Ravens are banking on internal development alone, on guys like David Ohabo suddenly taking that leap, or Daniel Falale and Andrew Voorhees miraculously turning into reliable starters down the stretch, they're playing with fire, and not the kind of fire that ignites a Super Bowl run. The kind that burns you when you least expect it. This team doesn't lack talent. It lacks insulation. It lacks contingency plans. It lacks margin for error. That's the issue. The starting pieces? Sure, there's quality. Travis Jones is having a breakout year. Kyle Hamilton is already one of the best safeties in football. Lamar Jackson is still Lamar Jackson. But when the weather turns cold and playoff football gets physical and teams start hammering the trenches, what's underneath this Ravens team? That's why fans are frustrated. Not because they don't believe in the core. They do. But because they've seen this movie before. A strong regular season, a roster with star power, but not enough reinforcement when it matters most. And here we are again, in November, and the front office still hasn't addressed the spots that were clearly flagged as problems weeks ago. And let's go back to something that shouldn't be glossed over, the offensive line. It's not just about whether Falale or Voorhees can hang. It's about what happens if anyone else goes down. What if Ronnie Stanley has another flare-up with that knee? What if Tyler Linderbaum tweaks an ankle? Are we comfortable with the backups stepping in when it matters most? Shaq Mason isn't perfect, but he's played in meaningful games. He's been around elite offensive lines. He's been a stabilizer. And maybe he isn't what he was in New England. But the version of him that struggled in Houston, that version still grades better than what the Ravens are trotting out right now. And for what it would cost, it's a no-brainer. Depth wins championships in January. Same thing applies to the defensive front. Look at the attrition already. Nambi Marab gone for the year. Broderick Washington, Achilles. It's November. This is when you start fortifying the roster. And no, you're not finding Pro Bowlers on the street. That's not the point. The point is that when it's 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter of a divisional round game, you don't want to be leaning on someone who just got activated from the practice squad 3 days ago. That's what makes Linval Joseph appealing. He doesn't have to be the 2020 version of himself. He just needs to eat space, absorb blocks, and keep your linebackers clean. That's it. He knows how to do it. He's done it on playoff teams before. You're not asking for miracles. You're asking for competence. You're asking for help. And this cornerback situation? Don't let the last few weeks erase the memory of how bad it was early on. Because we all saw it. The first month and a half of the season, the secondary was the worst in the league, and it wasn't close. The communication was off. The coverage was soft. They couldn't get off the field on third downs. It was a nightmare. And yes, it's improved. Nate Wiggins is flashing. Marlon Humphrey is settling back in. But one injury, one misstep, and this group is right back in crisis mode. That's why both Asante Samuel Jr. and Stephon Gilmore are so intriguing. Samuel gives you upside and youth, and most importantly, he's hungry. He's been cleared after spinal fusion surgery. He wants to prove himself. There's real value in that. And Gilmore? He's not running 4.3 anymore, but his football IQ is off the charts. You think there's not a play in January where his ability to read a quarterback's eyes and jump a route could swing a game? That's the kind of veteran savvy that changes postseason narratives. And don't overlook the edge. Kyle Van Noy has been great. Draymond Jones was a strong pickup. But beyond that, it gets thin quickly. And the Ravens need pass rushers that can actually finish plays. DeMarcus Walker brings that. 7 sacks in 2022. Another solid year in 2023. Production, plain and simple. You don't get bonus points in January for potential. You win with guys who've done it. Who can keep quarterbacks from settling in? Who can disrupt timing? That's what wins games in the playoffs. And then, there's Calais Campbell. This is the name that could flip everything upside down. No, he's not a free agent yet, but the writing is on the wall in Arizona. The Cardinals are headed nowhere fast in a brutal NFC West. It's not if they'll be eliminated, it's when. And when that happens, don't be surprised if Campbell is cut loose the same way he was in Miami last season, a classy veteran given the chance to chase a ring. If that moment comes, Baltimore has to be ready.